The RealAgriculture.com Canola School is brought to you by Syngenta Crop Protection Canada. Lloyd, there continues to be genetic advancements in the canola plant. You were involved in a research project that involved obviously canola genetics and the Weevil. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, Sean. We've worked for almost 10 years on developing canola that's resistant to attack by the cabbage seed pod weevil. And we did this by initially making crosses between canola, which is susceptible to the weevil, and Sinapis alba, or white mustard, which is completely resistant. And out of hundreds and hundreds of crosses and screening hundreds and hundreds of lines, we did find a few lines that were remarkably resistant to attack by the cabbage seed pod weevil. So we have developed that germplasm now. It's available to the industry, and it should be available to farmers for planting, especially in southern Alberta within the next year or two.
So this seems like creating a huge amount of value for farmers, saving money and not having to spray insecticide to control the weevil. How does it work? Does the weevil bite the plant and it dies, or how does it exactly work?
Well, it's got a fascinating mechanism by which the resistance is expressed in a number of ways. Firstly is just vision. From a distance, when weevils are selecting plants on which to land and to eventually lay their eggs, they're attracted to the visual appearance of those plants. And both the flowers of our resistant lines and the foliage of our resistant lines appear differently to weevils. So weevils will select susceptible plants rather than our resistant plants. The other important aspect is odor. When the weevils are just given a choice of odor given off by a resistant plant versus that given off by a susceptible plant, they always will migrate toward the susceptible plant. And finally, if they do lay their eggs in one of our in the pods of our resistant canola, those eggs don't hatch as well, nor do the larvae develop as rapidly as they do in a susceptible line.
So you mentioned so quickly. You mentioned they notice the difference in appearance of the plant.
Yes.
How is that? How do you know that? How is that possible?
Well, we've done tests where we had weevils in specially constructed chambers, and we excluded all other visual stimuli to them, but just showed them just the flowers. They couldn't get any odor stimuli, just the flowers of susceptible plants and the flowers of resistant plants. And then they could make a choice to which they were attracted. And by measuring how often they migrated toward the susceptible versus the resistant plant, we were able to show that far greater frequency they were attracted to the susceptible lines.
This seems like kind of an advancement in traits, very similar to the BT situation in corn, where we used to always spray, but now we buy varieties that have that trait incorporated. So it sounds very similar.
It does, Sean, and I'm a real proponent of this variety, obviously. But what's cool about it, in my view, is that it doesn't involve moving a foreign gene like they have in corn, a foreign gene from a bacteria into a corn plant, using that transgenic approach. Ours is a classical breeding approach. We've done crosses with a resistant parent and a susceptible parent, and we've produced offspring that are resistant.
Okay, Lloyd, thanks a lot.